Before we get started, anybody who has your cell phone, please turn it off.
I just dropped something, I can't see.
We'll say a few chapters of Tehillim, of Psalms, when we start. Mizmor LeDavid. Adinoi mi yagor b'halecha mi yishkan b'har kodshecha. Holich tomim ufayel tzedek v'doive emes b'levavoi. Leirogol al shoynei leosel re'ehu ra'ah v'cherpa le'noso al kroivoi. Nivzo ve'einav nimos ve'es yirei adinoi yichabed. Nishba lahara v'lo yamir kaspe le'nosan b'neshek v'shoichet al noki le'lokach. Oise eile lo yumeit le'olam. Mizmor LeDavid, a song of David. Who will abide in your holy temple? Who will dwell upon your holy mountain? He who walks uprightly, who works righteousness, who speaks truth in his heart, and has no slander on their tongue, who has done no evil to his fellow man, and has taken no reproach against his neighbor, in whose eyes a despicable person is despised, but honors those that fear God. One that thus swears not to another person and changes not their oath, who has not put their money and given at interest, nor has taken a bribe against the innocent. The one who has done these things shall not falter forever. Eishes chayu miyimtza, v'rochach mipnini mikra, botak bo lev bailo v'sholo lo yechsar. Gemalasu toiva lo ro ko yemei chayeho. Kappa poselo oni, v'yodeho shilcha lievyain. Noide b'sharim bailo b'shivte im zikne oretz. Oiz v'hodo levusha, v'tischak liyoim acharoin. Piha poscha v'chochma, v'soiras chesed al shoina. Tzofia halichas beisa, v'lechem atzlus loisaychel. Komu vaneho v'yashruha bailo v'halalo. Rabbois benos osu choyil v'at olus alkolono. Sheker hachein v'hevel hayofi. Isha yiras adinoi hisis halol. Tenulo mipri yodeho v'halaluho b'shori maseho. A wife of excellence who can find? Far beyond gems is her value. The heart of her husband trusts in her, and he shall lack no gain. She treats him with goodness, never with evil, all the days of her life. Her hand is stretched out to the poor, and her hands extended to the needy. Her husband is well known in the councils as he sits with the elders of the land. Strength and dignity are her garb. She joyfully awaits the last day. She opens her mouth with wisdom, and the teaching of kindness is on her tongue. She watches the conduct of her household and does not eat the bread of laziness. Her children rise up and praise her, her husband, and he lauds her. Many daughters have done worthily, but you surpass them all. False is grace, and vain is beauty. A God-fearing woman, she should be praised. Give her from the fruits of her hands, and let her deeds praise her in the gates. Our sages tell us that in the creation of a person there are three partners. There's the Father, the Mother, and the Holy One, blessed be He. The Father, from the Torah explains that from the seed of the Father there's formed certain parts of the body. From the white seed is formed the whites of the eyes. From the mother's seed, the red seed, says the iris, the pupil is formed. But the power of sight, this the Almighty gives. In the ear, part of the inner ear is formed by the father seed. And the outer ear is formed by the mother seed. But the power of hearing, this the Almighty gives. At the end of the person's days upon earth, excuse me, the Almighty takes back His portion and leaves the parents for us to take care of the rest. And that's what we're doing today, is to take care of the very last needs for Vivian Witt. This is to bring the final chesed, to bring it to our final resting. All of you here know Vivian and the special person she was. And I'm going to just take a few minutes to share some of those things with you that I'm sure everyone will appreciate. Vivian was born in Leadville, Colorado in August of 1926. She was the youngest of 3 children, and she started off already being a miracle baby. How? She was born premature, 2 pounds worth. The hospital didn't know what to do with her. In 1926, 2 pounds. Today it's already a big question of thriving and surviving. What could they do? They were totally unready. They had to put her in a little cigar box. And they put her under the lights in order that she should start to thrive. And she did. She thrived incredibly and became the great person she was. After being born at an early age, at the age of 3, her parents moved to Cleveland, and her father had a very, very successful general store business on the main street in Leadville and on the street Harrison. And when came to Cleveland, was a philanthropist, and he helped many people. Her older brother and sister, who already have gone, were also very successful. Her brother was a very famous and successful optometrist, and her sister a psychiatrist. And she proved to be extraordinary herself at a very young age. When she was a child prodigy at the piano. She started on her own, and she was self-taught. And there was an occasion when her mother brought her to a wedding they were going. The musician that was supposed to be there to play the march for the couple when they're going down the aisle was not present. And everybody was waiting. Where is the musician? When is he going to come? Never came. And little Vivian, at 5 years old, went over to the piano and played the wedding march. Of course, everybody was amazed to see a 5-year-old to, on the spot, be able to know what the song was and to start to play it for everyone. It was incredible. She had a perfect ear for pitch and could recreate anything and could play anything that she heard. She could hear it, and she would know exactly what it was and exactly could play it. Going through school, she was on the honor roll throughout all of her school years, and she was brilliant in all subjects. She went to Glenville High School, and later was eventually inducted into the Glenville High School Hall of Fame for her journalism accomplishments. And she received a bachelor's degree from Western Reserve College. And she took, after that, many additional courses later in life. She was a very cerebral person, a very intelligent, brilliant woman, and she always wanted to use her head, and she continued taking courses later in life, in her 50s and later, her 60s, and going on. She was always taking courses. Among the courses she took was graph analysis. That's basically handwriting analysis, where you can tell from someone's handwriting who and something about the person. And she was on 2 occasions chosen to be an expert witness for certain cases, to be an expert witness in handwriting analysis. She also lectured in schools about creative writing, journalism, and Evan here, he was able to be so fortunate to have his mother be able to address and give a lecture when he was in school about creative writing. That he has his mother there going and giving a lecture to the whole class. I'm sure he was schlepping a lot of nachas at the time. And I'm just going to say this in passing. We can, she took many different courses. She took one of the courses she was taking is in dancing. She's a very lively woman. And one of the dances also was belly dancing, believe it or not. I had a hard time believing that, but that's what I was told. She met her dear husband, Eli, in 1950, and they married and eventually had their 3 children, Ellen and Karen Oleha Sholem, she should rest in peace, and Evan. She was a very supportive and dedicated wife to her husband, Eli, as well as being dedicated to her kids always, being responsive to all their needs and their pursuits. She was always by her daughter Karen's side during her illness, and her passing was very devastating to Vivian. Vivian began her involvement in journalism already in high school. And after college, she worked in creative writing for advertising and businesses. She did the creative aspect of the writing for those advertisings. She was a very down-to-earth person and could relate and be comfortable in any environment and with all sorts of people, all races, religion, intellectual levels, whether it was a very dignified, a dignitary, or it was an ish pashut, it was a simple, ordinary person. She was able to relate equally and made no differences. She respected each person as they were and accepted them totally for who they were. I remember interacting with her. That's the phones. I remember interacting with her on occasion when she called regarding some articles in the Cleveland Jewish News that she was writing. And we had some discussions and exchanges, and there was other times that we got together that had nothing to do with the Cleveland Jewish News. And it was always just press the volume button. And it always impressed me that her demeanor and her presence this was a brilliant woman that she was speaking with, and it was very kind and caring. She had both milas, both of these virtues of tremendous intelligence, but at the same time, a kindness and a caring about her that made her become very endeared to you. And everyone knew the ring of the name Vivian Witt at the Cleveland Jewish News. Cleveland Jewish News and Vivian Witt, she was like a fixture there. And being with them for over 30 years. Vivian Witt and Cleveland Jewish News was like synonymous. It was like part of the newspaper. And especially her articles covering the Demyanya case. She was a very warm and compassionate person. And she cared and loved the underdog. She cared about people who had difficulties. And she loved connecting with people. Even when workers would come to her house to do work, she took the time, she would start talking to them about their life, talk to them about their lives, She would sit them down, give them food, feed them, make sure they had a good time when they left. And when she was in Stone Gardens, she was playing piano all the time for everyone. Everyone had built-in entertainment. Vivian was over there playing the piano for them. And she had a very strong Jewish identity. She lit Shabbos candles, Yom Tov candles all the time. Friday night there was dinners. Yom Tov there was dinners. Pesach, when it came Pesach, the family, friends, it was by her house. She was there. This was a person who the Yiddishkeit by her was an integral part of who she was. Her dedication to her husband and her children was something special. And her children saw this. She spent 8 hours a day with her dear husband Eli in the declining period of his illness. Even when the weather would be really bad and traveling there would be very difficult, hook by crook, she managed to get there, and she would go to Heather Hill, the Heather Hill facility where her husband Eli was, which is in the Bass Lake area. Now, not everybody knows, Vivian didn't like driving. So she used to go herself, but when the weather was bad, this was like a very, very difficult thing for her. But she was determined that she's going to go. Either she's going to get there or have someone get her. One way or another, she would go. And 8 hours a day, she would go there to be by her husband's side for years, for that time period. She had a phenomenal relationship also with her grandchildren. She was very attentive to their interests and would engage them. Brian liked outdoor kind of things. I did my research, inquiries. And so she would go out of her way to get something that had to do with outdoors, a sweatshirt that would capture and bring out that kind of thing, that she was in touch with it. Julie liked vintage jewelry. So she would go out of her way to find vintage kind of things, jewelry that Julie would appreciate. And she knew that Sophia loved to sing. So when they would get together, she would say, "What do you want to sing?" She would go to the piano, whatever song it was, she was ready, she was playing it, and they would do their thing together. So she was very mindful of others, those who were near her, to see what they are. And that's a very special quality when people are mindful what is another person's interest and want to engage and connect with them with that. That always leaves a lasting memory by people. And she herself also was the primary caregiver for both of her parents at the different times when they were in their declining years of health. She herself was the primary caregiver. And Evan, her dear son, learned from the best, from his mother and from his father, who did the same with his parents. He saw they were role models of caring for their elderly parents. And Evan was by his mother's side practically every day for 10 years. And in the last 5 years, when she was in hospice, I know he doesn't want me to say this. In the last 5 years by hospice, I remember Evan, we speaking about it and calling me up when the doctors already gave up hope on her. They were making already a brocha achreina, saying forget about it. And Evan assured them, my mother's strong, she'll hang in there. 5 years later, she was still going. And that was because of Evan by her side every time, giving his life to her, bonding with her, that she should be able to thrive under those circumstances. You know, this period of time we're in right now is very providential. The period we're in right now is called Sfiras HaOmer, the counting of the Omer. This is the counting of the days between Pesach and Shavuos, when the Torah was given on Mount Sinai. and we count the days. It's a very easy mitzvah to fulfill. All you do is say a blessing. Blessed are you, God, who sanctified us with his commandments and commanded us to count such and such days of the Omer. And that's it. Done. Very easy. They all should be so easy. But the meaning is very, very profound and very important. What are we blessing God and doing? We're counting time. It's teaching us the preciousness of time, of hours, of days, and the importance of spending time with our loved ones. This is so important. We had people here who were living examples, role models of this. Vivian herself, her husband, her children also, and Evan especially. We spoke about it, how he valued the time, how important it was to be together with them, and how important it is, the message for us, that we should do the same with our loved ones, to try to spend as much time as we can with them and bond with them. The other thing is, on Shavuos, when the Torah is given on Mount Sinai, is one of the places that explicitly in the Torah speaks about the eternity of the soul's existence. When God is going about to give the Torah on Mount Sinai, the Ten Commandments, to the Jewish people, God says to the Jewish people, I am not giving this and making this covenant with those of you who are here this day, but also with those of you who are not here this day. And what was it referring to? It was referring to the souls that had already lived and had passed on, and the souls that were not yet, but going to be born into the world, that the Torah tells us they were all present by Mount Sinai, talking about how the soul exists eternally. Here is an open reference to it. So when we're commemorating and we're observing a person's passing, it's a time for us to remember how the soul continues living and continues existing on. It's not a finality. And to keep the connection. Don't lose the connection. Know that your mom, your grandmother, her soul is still with us, still can be connected. She knows what you're doing. You could do things in her honor. You could use her example to incorporate in your life to be an extension of hers, an agent of hers in this world. And Hashem should bless you all through this difficult time to be able to do that, to give her the nachas of continuing her goodness that she was, her legacy for Ellen and Evan, Brian, Julie, Sophia, Stephen. All of you should be comforted during this time, and you should all merit to be a continuation of the legacy for your mom and grandma. We're going to have some speakers from the family. Ellen Botnick, the daughter of Vivian, is going to say a few words for us. Come.
First, I want to thank you, Rabbi. I know it was very important for my mom to have someone who knew her. And I know that my brother and I recognize that. And I am respectful and indebted to you for doing such a wonderful job. It really, it touched and moved me. Okay. And I want to thank everyone who is here and there's so many people I would like to name by name, and I'm not going to do that. The kindergarten friends and the Cleveland Jewish News friends and the EMA Players friends and all the aides, everyone that I could name, neighbors, and I want you to know that my heart and soul are touched by your being here, family, of course, but I know it would mean everything to my mom. Okay. My mom taught me, my brother and sister, by example, to be good listeners and to recognize and appreciate that everyone has a story to tell. My friends enjoyed being around her because she was a great conversationalist and had a quirky sense of humor. My mom was not a show-off in any sense of the word. I wasn't even aware of the dozens of journalism awards she'd received until a few months ago. Her 30-plus years of writing for the Cleveland Jewish News covered a broad spectrum of subjects, including human interest stories, personality profiles, and her column, Vivian in Nachasland. Of course, her coverage of the John Demaniak trial garnered the most recognition. And she did more than write for the newspaper. She played piano by ear, she was an artist, and as a young girl, a ballerina. She wrote and co-wrote skits for Hadassah's Ema Players, which were performed at venues around Ohio and neighboring states. And she wrote parodies for Glenville High School reunions. She also accompanied the performances on the piano. My mom also worked at times at my dad's store, first at 105th and Superior, then when it moved to 4th Street, then Prospect, and finally to the Colonial Arcade. One of her skills in the retail world was talking to customers. I'm not sure she was a successful salesperson, but she took sincere interest in the lives and stories of the customers as well as the other employees. For a time, my mom, her parents and siblings, her grandmother Rose, and many of her aunts and cousins all lived together in one half of the side-by-side houses on Somerset Avenue in Cleveland. She often reminisced about those days as some of her happiest and most meaningful. She was a working mom when many were not, but she never let work interfere with her family. She believed that family was the most important thing in life, and she loved having family at our home, including for Seders and other holidays and really any time. My mom's life took a different path these last several years, and we're grateful for the care she was given, with a special mention of Brittany. My mom will be missed. She left a legacy in print and in hearts. I will miss her and will never forget her story.
Sophia, one of the grandchildren.
There aren't really any words that begin to explain the incredible person my grandma was. The type of person she was made each person feel as though they were her best friend. She knew how to make each person feel as though they could confide and share their entire world with her, and they could. Nana, as I called her, was special. Her poise and light spirit were extremely humbling, and her delight in the simplest things in life was inspirational. She was brilliant, generous, and found good in everything and everyone. We all know her in our own capacities: a writer, an activist, a friend. And in mine, she was of the highest esteem. In 5th grade, my teacher asked us to choose one person we look up to, and many of our other children chose their favorite celebrities. But I chose my Nana. This brought me even closer to her as I learned the intricate details of her life. She was born on a mountaintop during a storm, weighing only 2 pounds. And because she was so small, they placed her in a cigar box filled with cotton and blankets with heated lights in order to incubate her. She was a miracle baby. When she was 3 years old, her family's housekeeper sat at the piano in her home and began playing a tune. When she concluded, Nana sat on the bench and by ear began playing the tune she had learned by memory. Not only was she gifted, but she was a prodigy child. As a 5th grader, I felt superior to all of my classmates for having a prodigy child in my bloodline. As I grew older, I found a passion for singing, which played out smoothly with the accompaniment of my grandma's perfect pitch. Without sheet music, she'd play endless songs, and she and I would play classics for hours. The song we regularly played was Que Sera, Sera, which we would make our own lyrics to and we'd forget the words. She was my biggest cheerleader during my theater career, coming to every show I was in and singing the songs with me months after the show's debut. As a journalist, there really wasn't a story she hadn't covered. She constantly read and kept up with diverse topics across the board. Her table used to be filled with articles that she'd just read that morning that she was eager to share with my father and myself. She loved keeping up with current ideas and technology and would often ask for my advice with new slang terms. I remember her love for sticky Post-it notes, which she'd write down the notes of the new vocabulary I'd teach her. The word totes, or totally, being one of her favorites, and learning what a text message was, which she'd call a Tex-Mex. One of my favorite memories was during Passover when my father and I would go to Nana's house for her famous Passover rolls. Everyone would debate which local restaurant made the best Passover rolls, but we knew that Nana's were truly superior. Whenever we would walk into her house, she'd always offer my father orange juice, and for me a Diet Coke, which she also loved. Nana's love of sparkles matched her personality. Every day she'd radiate positivity. There are few people in this world that one could say were pure of heart, but Nana truly was. Her efforts and intentions were always with the best interest of everyone, not just herself, and she was always eager to give to others. We should all aspire to be a little bit like her. A Renaissance woman with a passion for helping others. I hope that she touched everyone as much as she has me, and I hope to live every day of my life celebrating hers.
Thank you, Sylvia. Okay, can everyone stand for the memorial prayer, please? Eil moli rachamim, shoichein meroimim, hametzei menucha nechoino, al kanfei ashchino, b'mailas hakadoshim u'tohirim, kizoi ha'harakia mazhirim, es nishmas yentish bas moisham, shoho loilamo, Bavo shebli neder yitnu tzedoko be'aras chores nishmoso Began Eden tehei menuchoso Lochein balo rachamim Yastiro b'seiso kanof of leilomim V'yitzror b'tzoror rachayim es nishmoso Adinoi unachaloso V'sanuach al mishkovo b'sholom v'noimar omein. O God, full of compassion, who dwells on high, grant perfect rest upon the sheltering wings of your presence among the holy and pure who shine as the brightness of the firmament unto the soul of Vivian Witt, Yentish Bas Moshe, Yentish Bas Moshe, who has gone unto eternity, in whose memory charity is offered bli neder. May her repose be in paradise, and may the Lord of mercy shelter her with the covering of his wings, and let her soul be bound up in the bond of eternal life. May the Lord be her possession, and may her repose be in peace. Amen. Everyone may be seated. The interment will be in Beit Olam, Cemetery Beit Olam, that's on Chagrin and Richmond Road. And the family will be receiving visitors today afterwards, after the cemetery, at Burton Court, which is in Gates Mills. The address is 1501 Chagrin River Road. And if anybody needs any help with directions, you'll speak to us after, and we'll get it to you. But it's 1501 Chagrin River Road. It's called Burton Court.